Hello everyone and welcome to my Rule of Families and Streams project. My name is Megan Streeter and I grew up in a town called Mohawk, New York, and there is a picture on the presentation to show you guys a relative idea of where that is. And I have an older sister, Emily, and two younger cousins, Brady and Ella, and there's also a picture of them included there. And when we were younger, we would spend a lot of time with my grandma, and something we always loved to do was just spend time outdoors, just playing in the environment around us or doing whatever we could just to be outside. And so one thing that my grandma really loved to do with us was take us letterboxing. So you might be wondering what letterboxing is. So letterboxing is a website that you can go to search your current location, and letterboxes will pop up and give you clues that will lead you to that certain letterbox. So when you get to the letterbox, you will find a pad of paper where you can write your name and the date that you found the letterbox. And sometimes you can include a little stamp as shown over in the small picture. This is a little picture that I had found recently of an older letterbox that my cousins and my sister had hid when we were younger. And so sometimes people will find letterboxes in groups, and they could have a signature stamp or a group name that they'll write in the letterbox. And that's kind of cool because you can go around to different ones in the same general area and see that same group in all the different letterboxes that found the same ones that you did. And so inside these letterboxes, there could also be some small toys or little trinkets inside that you could take, and you can even choose to leave something behind for the next person that finds the letterbox. And these letterboxes usually stay intact unless they're tampered with or damaged by just the weather or anything that goes on outside. But I also wanted to include this picture over to the right because this letterbox was a little bit different than normal letterboxes. It led us to a small public library that you could take books out for free, and you could leave books for other people to take for free. And I thought that that was just a really cool thing that was great for the community that I hadn't even known about before that. When thinking about the connections to streams, I wanted to first talk about the rich history that's behind letterboxing. So usually when you search for letterboxes, they will be hidden in places that have some historical value to the area. So for example, I wanted to include some pictures that I have found with some history behind them. So this first picture here is a letterbox that we found at a famous battleground, which was the Battle of Anderstown in German Flats, New York. And this battle took place in 1778 during the Revolutionary War. And the second picture here is an Indian burial mound that is located in Cooperstown, New York. And also in Cooperstown, we found one located at Council Rock Park. And this was a famous meeting place for Native Americans. And lastly, we have a letterbox that we found at Oak Hill Cemetery in Herkimer, New York, which also has a lot of rich history behind it. And whenever we would go to these places, my grandma would always make sure to tell us all about the area, even though as kids we didn't really want to listen to it. It was pretty interesting looking back at it now. Along with the vast history that you can learn from letterboxing, you can also learn a lot about science and the environment around you. Because letterboxing is strictly outdoors, it forces you to go out into the world and explore your surroundings. A lot of the letterboxes will lead you to local trails that have a lot of information throughout the trails. A great example of this is one letterbox that we found at Goodyear's Palm Sanctuary, which is actually located on Oneonta's campus. This trail had a lot of information throughout it, but one of the things that stuck out to us the most was a little piece about flying squirrels, just because as kids we had no idea that flying squirrels were a real thing, and we thought this was just the coolest thing ever. Along with the little information pieces that we get throughout the trails, we just love walking in the trails in general and exploring the environment around us. Looking back at this project has made me realize how grateful I am for my grandma and everything that she has done for me as a child. Growing up in a small town could get pretty boring, but going on these small adventures with my family was one of my favorite things to do as a kid. Although I didn't really know it at the time, my grandma would always take the time to teach us about the history around our letterboxes and the environment that we would go through. I would love to someday incorporate these same ideas into educational classroom activities, for example, possibly having my students create a letterbox of their own and incorporating aspects of science and history into it. And I hope you guys enjoyed learning about these letterboxes, and I hope that one day you go out to find a letterbox of your own.